Discovered my wife's affair was with her boss, so I filed a complaint and got him fired. Discovered that my wife's affair partner was her superior. In response, I took decisive action, filing a formal complaint that led to his termination and subsequently ended my marriage, securing full custody of our children. But the process was not simple. I had to find a way to punish this cheating wife more severely. Listen now to see how I dealt with them. Before we begin, please let me know which country you are watching from. I find myself utterly drained, grappling with frustration, and striving to make sense of it all. This may come across as a frantic outpouring, but it's a reflection of the emotions I've been bottling up, reluctant to share with anyone. As I fully acknowledge my role in this situation, I was meant to make a prudent choice, yet I stumbled miserably in that endeavor. I am a 36-year-old man, and I have shared my life with my wife, who is 32, and shall be referred to as Jessica, for the past 6 years. Since our son reached the age of 3, I find it increasingly difficult to place my trust in her, regardless of how trivial the matter may seem. At the age of 20, I found myself in the midst of a harrowing accident. An industrial machine at my previous workplace malfunctioned, resulting in lasting damage to my right leg and arm. My body is held together by metal plates and screws. On difficult days, my ability to move is greatly restricted. We pursued legal action against the company and secured some compensation. While it wasn't as substantial as I had hoped, it was sufficient to purchase a home, establish a solid health insurance plan for myself, and acquire a few assets. My profession in IT affords me the flexibility to work remotely as required, and I frequently find myself enjoying extended periods of remote work. Jessica continues to work full-time, and that has never posed a problem. With my income and a mortgage-free home, we found ourselves in a solid financial situation. Given my hybrid work arrangement and the flexibility of my schedule, I assumed some domestic responsibilities, including the hiring of cleaners, as cleaning has become quite challenging due to my injury. Yet, in recent months, it seems as though Jessica's common sense has simply evaporated. For our son, she has begun to neglect some of her responsibilities a bit too often, such as packing his bag and preparing his lunch. On 2 separate occasions that I can remember, she drove off without properly buckling his car seat. I had to call her from the driveway after noticing him sitting up a bit too straight as he waved goodbye to me. It has been noted by teachers and even by my son that she consistently arrives late to pick him up. Despite my repeated explanations of the exact school supplies needed, as outlined in the emails from the school, she continues to purchase the wrong items for him. I purchase what I can through online channels, yet when it comes to the items best acquired in person, she falls short. After she brought home the wrong items for the 3rd time, I decided to order them online myself, despite the inconvenience it entailed. In my experience, she has consistently mishandled my medications, a situation that was not always the norm. My pain management regimen is meticulously structured, yet she has either confused my medications, discarded those I still require, or neglected to collect my refills, even after I have reminded her numerous times. Indeed, I recognize that I am capable of organizing my medications independently, yet it seems reasonable to request assistance from your spouse in such matters. She persistently places my mobility aids in locations that are difficult for me to access. My daily movements have become much easier than they once were, thanks to the braces that alleviate the strain on my weaker joints, safeguarding them from additional harm. Not long ago, we acquired a new bike for our son, as the previous one had become too small for him. I clearly instructed her to secure the training wheels before allowing him to take it for a spin. She promised me she would. I would have taken it upon myself, yet it's clear that it's not so simple for me in light of recent events. Yet mere moments later, a piercing scream echoed through the air. As I gazed through the window, my eyes fell upon him sprawled on the ground, tears streaming down his face. She had entirely overlooked the training wheels. At present, my son is adamant about not riding his bike unless someone is there to support him, which is quite exasperating, considering he once relished the freedom of biking solo, unencumbered by those pesky training wheels. Throughout the home, her negligence has been just as apparent. She has repeatedly neglected to close the front door after unloading the groceries. As dawn breaks, I descend the stairs only to discover a jar awaiting my attention. Our child delights in exploring new spots to play, hide, and seek. Yet he neglects to inform us when he's about to embark on a new game. For heaven's sake. One night I awoke to discover the kitchen in disarray, as if a tornado had swept through it. As I ascended that night, the experience was far from what I had anticipated. What actions led to such a state of disarray? She had never exhibited such behavior before, leaving me utterly perplexed. 2 months prior, she pushed the washing machine to its limits, resulting in a deluge that engulfed our laundry room. Just last month, our garage fell victim to theft. It is my firm belief that she left the garage door ajar, likely due to her preoccupation, and I am convinced she played a role in this oversight. Then a few weeks ago, the unthinkable occurred. She informed me of a significant project at her workplace, indicating that she would be returning home later than usual. That was acceptable. I found joy in offering my support to her. I began the routine of collecting our son from school, a task she had managed every day without fail. I have taken on a significant portion of the childcare responsibilities at home due to my hybrid work schedule, particularly on weekends, so I was more than willing to step up while she concentrated on her job. I prepared dinner, tidied up, and ensured that everything was in order. She returned home one evening, utterly fatigued, a state I could easily comprehend. I placed her dinner before her, assisted with her bath, and allowed her to unwind. Yet she didn't even make the effort to visit our son's room to kiss him goodnight or see how he was doing. She didn't even inquire about how his day had unfolded. Emerging from the steam of the shower, she slipped into bed and instinctively reached for her phone. She was glued to that thing from the instant she crossed the threshold, throughout dinner, and even during her shower. She reclined, a gentle smile gracing her lips as she gazed at the screen, until slumber finally claimed her. Not a single word to me, no consideration for our son. What sort of work project has you so engrossed in your phone that you lose sight of your husband and child? The following morning, I gently roused her from sleep for a brief conversation before she prepared for her day at work, inquiring about the reasons behind her behavior. She murmured sleepily, "Oh, my bad. I was really tired." She turned over and began preparing for her day at work. That was the end of the line for me. My fury rendered me speechless. Upon her return that very day, I felt a surge of anger, leading to a heated confrontation between us. I expressed to her my resolve to stop making excuses on her behalf, that I could no longer be the one to rectify her missteps, and that it often felt as though I was tending to two children rather than sharing my life with a partner. She became defensive, expressing that she has been overwhelmed with the pressures of work and parenting, urging me to be more understanding. I expressed to her that I can no longer endure this situation, that it feels as though I am shouldering all the burdens while she continues to make reckless and perilous choices that jeopardize both our son and myself. She labeled me as dramatic and was on the verge of leaving when I seized her phone, strode into the room, and slammed the door shut behind me. Initially, it seemed she was overwhelmed by disbelief. She began to pound on the door, hurling curses in my direction, threatening to call the police. I encouraged her to proceed. I secured the door, drowning out her cries and relentless banging. My hand trembled as I scrolled through her messages, uncertain of what I sought, yet instinctively aware that something was amiss with this phone she seemed to cling to incessantly. It was a brief moment. Her latest exchanges brimmed with the mundane rhythm of daily life, messages from friends, a handful of work alerts, and the ever-present tide of spam. Yet my gaze fell upon a chat marked solely by the letter D. I pressed it, and an unsettling sensation washed over me. The messages were unambiguous, sordid. My wife, my Jessica, was sharing images of herself, expressing her eagerness to feel him once more, reminiscing about how she longed for the way he made her cry out in ecstasy. My jaw dropped, yet I continued to scroll, for what other choice did I have? My insatiable curiosity nearly led to my demise. At one moment, my vision became obscured. I'm not even sure when my legs faltered. Perhaps it was at the moment I encountered his responses. "I will reserve the hotel for Friday at the usual time. I eagerly anticipate the moment I can behold that stunning figure once more. That individual doesn't offer it to you the way I do. Your little black skirt today is absolutely stunning on you. That is why I insisted you take me right there in the office. A wave of sickness washed over me, leaving me feeling utterly nauseous. My fingers tingled with a chilling numbness as I scoured his profile, searching for any shred of evidence to unveil the true identity of this scoundrel. It was then that I discovered their shared group chat, a gathering of colleagues where names were exchanged amidst lighthearted offline chatter. In the very heart of the scene stood Richard M., the regional manager, her superior, the man she had voiced her grievances about on countless occasions. He was the one she deemed overbearing, the one who drove her relentlessly, compelling her to tackle those late-night projects. One of the reasons for her heightened stress over the past few months. In mere seconds, I connected her WhatsApp to my laptop, capturing screenshots of everything. Each sordid word, every graphic image, every incriminating detail laid bare. When I finally finished, I found myself unable to walk in a straight line. I stepped out of the room to find Jessica lingering at the door, her complexion strikingly pale. Her gaze met mine, and in that moment, it was as if she understood that I was aware of everything. "What actions did you take?" Her voice quivered. "What have I done?" "No, Jessica, what on earth have you done?" She reached for my arm, but I pulled away sharply. "Darling, no matter what you believe you witnessed," I sharply rebuked her and insisted she refrain from attempting to manipulate my perception. I explicitly stated that I had witnessed every single detail involving her boss, every picture, every video, every text, and beyond. She stood still, caught in a moment of disbelief. Then, as if following a precise rhythm, her expression transformed. A certain melancholy amusement washes over me as I contemplate this next segment. She adopted a defensive stance. "You went through my phone? What sort of absurd question rooted in denial is that?" I chuckled softly. "Is that truly all you wish to express? You betray me, humiliate me, discard our marriage for some unscrupulous boss, and your immediate response is to accuse me of invading your privacy?" I interrupted her as she began to assert that I had no right to speak, silencing her words before they could fully form. I possessed every single right. It's perplexing how we found ourselves embroiled in a debate about rights amidst the flow of our conversation. I found myself on the brink of laughter when my son emerged from his room, tears streaming down his face. She reached for his hand, but I yanked him away as though scalded. "I made a mistake," she whispered, her tears spilling forth. Amidst my turmoil, he simply existed in the background. I instructed her to be silent. There was no tension in the air when you shared those intimate images with him. There was no tension in your heart as you slipped away to those hotels. A choice lay before you, Jessica. I led my son into his room, gathered a few belongings, and then made my way to my own room to retrieve my medications and other necessities. As I stepped out of the room, I found her crumpled on the couch, tears streaming down her face as she buried her hands in her palms. Yet my intention was not to remain for the show. Jessica trailed behind me into the hallway, her anxiety palpable. She inquired about my destination, yet I remained silent on the matter. I stepped outside, forcefully closed the door with a resounding thud, and climbed into my car. As I drove away, a profound weariness enveloped me. I reassured my parents that it was merely a minor disagreement, nothing of great consequence. They refrained from probing, yet the worry in their eyes was unmistakable. The following morning, my phone incessantly rang. Jessica, repeatedly, time and time again. As I turned a deaf ear to her calls, the flood of texts began. It has now been a full day, and she continues to wield threats of the police, her lawyers, and every agency she believes she can enlist as instruments of intimidation against me. I cherish my wife deeply, yet I find myself longing for the essence of the person she once was. I long for the individual I once placed my trust in, and I am confident that my feelings are not an overreaction. I erred, he was simply present. Indeed, she is utterly pitiable. So you leave your child unattended in a vehicle, while you mingle with your associates, and then resort to deceit? Truly, it's best if you go. This nonsense has no place in your life. She is unworthy of any further investment of your energy. It is evident that she holds neither you nor your child in high regard. In truth, she has demonstrated that she could not care less. Revision. After a week, I returned home, primarily for the sake of my son. Upon my return, I found myself refraining from discussing the matter with her, despite her relentless attempts to seek my forgiveness at every turn. She decided to take a week off from work, and I found myself indulging in beautifully prepared meals. She began to focus intently on our child as well, yet ever since that disagreement, I have been steering clear of her with great determination. In retrospect, I realize I could have shown more kindness to a specter. I vacated the bedroom for her and took refuge in the guest room. There was a certain pitifulness about her, a quality that evoked both sympathy and contemplation. Upon returning from her day at work, she would retreat to her bedroom for a meal, attempting to engage me in conversation. Yet I merely brushed off her efforts or insisted she refrain from speaking to me, fearing that it would lead to conflict. I would hardly recognize that a significant issue existed. In the stillness of the night, as I rose to ensure the doors were secure, a ritual born from her negligence, I would often hear her weeping. Little did she realize that a deeper wave of tears was on the horizon. Clarity washed over me, illuminating the path I was destined to take. My initial call was to the attorney my parents suggested following my injury, who subsequently referred me to a divorce lawyer with expertise in matters of infidelity and neglect. I presented my circumstances, sharing with him every screenshot I had meticulously collected. He paid close attention and posed thoughtful inquiries regarding my health, my financial circumstances, and the welfare of my son. As I recounted the weight of my responsibilities, managing the majority of childcare and juggling both household and personal duties, while Jessica engaged in reckless, careless, and unfaithful behavior, despite her significantly higher income, he confidently assured me that we had a compelling case. Given my partial disability and the clear evidence of her neglect, I stood a strong chance of securing both the house and primary custody of my son. As the legal proceedings began to unfold, I resolved not to let this matter pass in silence. Jessica and her boss had been so audacious, so unrepentant in their affair, that they warranted a public confrontation. I refused to simply file for divorce and remain passive, arms crossed, as those two continued on with their lives. I intended to ensure they experienced the same emotions I did upon discovering the affair. Thus, I ventured into her office with the intent to create a stir. I entered the building, a serene facade masking the tempest within. Security attempted to intervene, yet I declared, with a voice that resonated through the crowd, that I must see my wife, Jessica, and Mr. Richard M. at this moment. The receptionist's eyes still widened in my memory, accompanied by the hushed whispers that filled the lobby. Employees glanced from their workspaces, instinctively aware of the unfolding tension. Jessica emerged first, her expression fraught with panic. She seized my arm and exclaimed, "What on earth are you doing here?" I brushed her aside and turned my attention to the whole gathering. "I have come to confront Mr. Richard M., the individual who has been sharing intimate moments with my wife right here in this office." Gasps echoed in the air, and Jessica's complexion turned ashen. It seems she mentioned something regarding my volume, yet I was genuinely reveling in the response. However, I must admit, I felt a wave of nerves wash over me at that moment. I faced the gathering throng. One of the regional managers, the individual at the helm, has been exploiting his position to engage in a sordid affair during office hours, utilizing company resources, and my wife. I cast a disdainful glance at Jessica, feeling quite pleased to join in. A door creaked open, only to be abruptly slammed shut, and then a man approached me. He introduced himself as the executive director, urging me to calm my nerves, assuring me that he was in control and would take care of everything. He led me into an office and then summoned my wife, along with the individual referred to as Richard, for an extensive discussion. With a sense of eagerness, I replied, permitting myself to be guided into his office. I presented him with all the screenshots I possessed. I possess evidence that these two have been engaging in clandestine activities, even amidst their work commitments. Your company's reputation has suffered as your regional manager focused on booking hotel rooms rather than providing effective leadership. The executive director interrupted me. He assured me that a comprehensive investigation would be conducted and that I should not be concerned. However, he remarked that my actions were not appropriate and that I ought to have approached the situation with greater maturity. It was clear he was aligning himself with his people, and that infuriated me. I suggested to him that perhaps he ought to have encouraged his staff to embrace a greater sense of maturity, and maybe we wouldn't find ourselves in this discussion now. I requested his business card to facilitate the submission of the necessary evidence. He handed it to me, and I exited with my head held high. As I was about to depart, the sound of raised voices reached my ears. "Is the mission complete?" Jessica returned home that day, tears streaming down her face. The initial words that escaped her lips were, "Do you realize what you've done?" I found myself chuckling a tad more than necessary at that. "Indeed, Jessica, what you have done. You discarded our union, overlooked our child, and showed disregard for our sanctuary. Your mind wasn't on your work while you were covertly entangled with your superior, was it?" She appeared poised to unleash a flurry of punches, yet her arsenal was limited to the power of her words. She claimed that my actions were driven by malice. "I am taking this stand because you will not have the power to ruin my life and simply walk away without consequence." It was gratifying to express that to her. The atmosphere in the house following that moment was thick with unease. Each exchange we shared felt stilted, strained, and devoid of warmth. She attempted to portray an air of capability, as if she could mend the fractures between us. Yet deep down, we both understood that there was no returning to what once was. I took refuge in the guest room, a familiar sanctuary by now, yet I turned down every meal she prepared. Our exchanges were brief, consisting solely of essential phrases. Our son, bewildered and attuned to the change, held on to me with an intensity that felt unprecedented. The proceedings of the divorce unfolded with remarkable speed. Armed with my documented partial disability, the validation of my role as a primary caregiver, and the undeniable evidence of her affair, I secured both the house and the majority custody of our son. The judge determined that she would be granted visitation rights. However, due to her past negligence, our son was to reside primarily with me. As her earnings surpassed mine, I offered her no financial support. I stepped away from the bonds of marriage, carrying with me my son, my home, and the remnants of my dignity, all preserved and intact. She departed carrying little more than a whisper of regret. 2 months later, an intriguing update arrived. Richard found himself without a job. The investigation has revealed that he, in fact, misappropriated company resources and time in pursuit of his affair with Jessica. Yet this is where the intrigue unfolds. Jessica successfully retained her position. She asserted that Richard had coerced her into the relationship. Uncertain of the evidence she presented, one can only assume it was persuasive enough, as her consequence was merely a demotion and a transfer to another branch. She contacted me not long ago, pleading for a reconsideration of the divorce terms. She yearned for additional moments with our son. She yearned to set things aright. Yet the divorce had reached its conclusion. Nothing could be revisited. She has made her decisions, and now she must bear the consequences. Indeed, I long for the cherished moments we shared, yet she made decisions that fractured our family, and now we must all bear the consequences of that reality. As though a handful of lovingly prepared dishes could simply wipe away all troubles, she may strive with all her might. She is an inadequate partner and an even less capable parent. Despite the numerous opportunities you extended to her, she ultimately decided to turn her back on you. She must carry that burden with her. Would you have approached things in another way? We invite you to share your thoughts in the comments section below. We appreciate your presence with us today in this space. Don't forget to show your support by liking and subscribing, and be sure to tap that notification bell so you stay updated on our upcoming video. Until we meet again.